Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. FormaL has revealed that a potential return to the Call of Duty League over the coming years is not out of the realms of possibility, and if the stars were to align as to the roster, the game being particularly good, and if Halo was to become somewhat stellar as it has done multiple times in its history as a franchise esports, FormaL's return to Call of Duty could well be happening, especially given the fact that in 2024 and 2025, both years are going to be Treyarch titles, or at least Treyarch-esque titles. Could this actually be on the cards? Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Thought this is a kind of crazy crossover as well. If you guys aren't familiar with Oscar Piastri, Formula 1 driver for McLaren, had one of the best rookie seasons, well, at least in recent memory. The most recent year in Formula 1, won the sprint race in Qatar. If you guys follow F1, you'll know who Piastri is. Now, there was some TikTok here they did with McLaren Shadow, kind of like their esports team thing, I think, pretty sure, going on. And he was asked the question, who's your favourite gamer to watch? And he says that back in the day, Scump, he'd watch a lot of Scump all the time. And I do wonder, like, these guys, it's the same story with John Rahm, right? Didn't John Rahm say after he won, I don't know if it was the Masters or the US Open, something like that anyway, that the day he won that massive golf tournament, he was in the morning watching, I think it was OpTic Chicago, like he was watching their game back for the previous day, something crazy like that. So I love all these crossovers. Even Ty Hill here, right, Miami Dolphins wide receiver, spotted wearing an LA Thieves beanie. So I always love these kind of crossovers. I always think as well, like, probably at some point they've seen one of my stupid thumbnails in their YouTube feed, you know what I mean? Like, they probably haven't watched any videos, but they probably, like, at some point they might have scrolled past a stupid thumbnail with Doug dropping 7 or something. Good stuff for sure. Quickly on Doug, actually, he does reply to Beans here on Karachi Control on, well, certain questions on the way the spawns currently work. The new spawn update has come through. The amateur players have been playing on this for quite a long time now. The funny thing is, Sledgehammer say, and they always say this, I'm not exactly blaming Sledgehammer in the sense that every dev says this, and almost always this turns out to not be true, that, oh, we're fixing the spawns, guys, don't worry, new spawn update arriving, they're all going to be fine. And often they get worse. Now, it's kind of funny as to why, but here we are on Karachi Control. You've got to understand that in Control, if the opportunity arises to actually capture a point from an offensive perspective, you need to spawn relatively close. So here we are here trying to capture B on Karachi, and number 4 spawns in absolute Narnia, and I really don't understand why. At the point that number 4 spawns up here, the situation is as follows. So number 4 spawns in this situation. 3 is still alive, I'm pretty sure at this point. Number 1 is here, number 2 is here, 5 is dead. Why would 4 spawn here? Like, really, 4 should be spawning near number 2, you know, to allow the opportunity, but instead, number 4 is spawning in absolute no man's land, and therefore, the attacking team has basically no chance. And apparently, 3 also spawned out as well, even though 2 wasn't dead. So, yeah, great map, he says. It's difficult to win offenses, and maybe with the new spawns, it's going to be even more difficult. This is another example here on Terminal where, I mean, I'm not even going to try to explain this, but have a look at this. We've got 2 and 6 opposite teams spawning right next to each other, and then 1 and 5 spawn right next to each other, literally 2 seconds later. So, yeah, Terminal might be a mess. We heard rumors that it was going to be unplayable, which, okay, it still seems playable, but maybe not especially. So, this is causing some bit of drama as well, actually, both ways from Snoopy. So, Snoopy tweeted this out, of course, promoting the event at Major 1 in Boston. Here he is, and he says, it's the last couple of days of 2023. It's been an incredible year. I am eagerly anticipating the commencement of the new year with the boys. What better way to start than by having the first CDL major be at home? Ensure you don't miss it, etc., etc. Get your tickets here type thing. Now, the funny thing about this is, of course, from Snoopy is that, all right, how has he come up with this? Eagerly anticipating the commencement of the new year. People were like, there's no way you've come up with this yourself. You've used ChatGPT. Who wrote it for you and all this? And Snoopy says, no, look, you'll need to regain, guys. I wrote this stuff myself. Maybe he did consult with with a GPT engine, but, you know, he says he wrote it himself. He even went as far to put it as his stream title list. I wrote that tweet myself. Stop asking who wrote it. So thought that was pretty funny. But, yeah, Snoopy, he doesn't miss in and out of the server. Eagerly anticipating the commencement. I'm going to have to add that one to the arsenal. So we're going to talk about FormaL here in a second. Of course, we saw the OpTic Dynasty guys did their ranking tier list of retired players the other day. FormaL was involved in that. There was no Crim there, of course. Not part of OpTic, but he actually is getting ready to go. He's officially got his racing license from the Sports Car Club of America to drive in next year's Porsche North American Series. So I saw this on Insta today. I thought it was kind of cool, just as a confirmation really of what's going on there. But we did the OpTic Dynasty, the movie episode on the Break and Watch channel the other day, and there's been lots of talk lately from this man, FormaL, right? He went over to the Halo side, won the World Championship there in 2022, nearly won it again this year, had quite a few words to say on Dashy the other day, and you know, what Dashy has learned from FormaL, what Dashy's trying to do going forwards. This, though, was FormaL's career in Call of Duty, which is incredible to think he did this in COD. and he's had, you know, so much success in Halo before Call of Duty and even after Call of Duty that he's gone back there. But the reason why FormaL came to CoD was because Halo was in a tough spot. And every so often, Halo gets in a tough spot. At least with Call of Duty, it's in some ways bad that we have a new game every year. The game's always a mess, basically. But at least we have a new game every year. People play it every single year. Halo Infinite, I know that a lot of people think, well, it was good when it first came out and it was fun and I enjoyed it when it first came out, but then it quite quickly relatively died off. The interest there from the developers wasn't necessarily there to keep it alive, new updates and stuff like this, and for whatever reason, I'm sure the pros have their thoughts on it, the developments, the progress really of the Halo Infinite title has somewhat regressed, and the viewership that Halo's going to get now is not as it was a couple of years ago. And it happened the first time when FormaL and the other Halo guys came to CoD. Halo was effectively dying out. The MLG circuit dropped Halo, put Call of Duty on it instead, and therefore lots of the Halo guys decided to make the switch, as did FormaL. Very few were successful. FormaL, Enable really were the only two that made it at the time. The others kind of went back to Halo, and then Shotzzy, of course, in recent memory, among others, have tried to make that transition work. But at some point, it seems to be just the history of esports that Halo will find itself in a tricky position, and some of the players will consider a return to Call of Duty, which seems to be somewhat more stable over a longer time horizon. And despite the fact that FormaL is, 29, and you'd think that maybe after his career in Halo is done, he might just retire, because look, he retired from Call of Duty once, but then he went to Halo because he found something that he was excited about, and he wanted to grind, and still one of the best players in the world in that game, no doubt about it. So if the passion is still there, a return to CoD is definitely not out of the realms of possibility. And FormaL actually reveals that if the stars were to align, a few things would have to happen here to make this make sense, but he could come back to CoD.
You and Scump ever unretire for CoD? Maybe. I guess you could never really say never. It would have to take a lot for me personally to like unretire to go back to CoD. It'd have to be like a really good CoD, it'd have to be a good team, it'd have to be in the right headspace, like it'd have to be a lot of shit. Like the CoD grind is a lot different than the Halo grind. The CoD grind's a lot more serious. Like the Halo grind's like whatever, dude. Like games aren't like that serious. Like they're serious, but you know what I mean. Like COD's like 11 a.m. to like 4 p.m. type shit. Like it's so much different. You have to be a really good COD. You have to really like it type shit. Dude, you remember in Black Ops 3 how you'd open supply crates for camos? Remember that purple one called like Energon?
No.
Oh, well, it was like the only one I wanted. It was like the purple one. I'm pretty sure they like glitched my account so I couldn't get it. I had it for literally every single gun like twice over and just never got the M8 because they knew I would keep buying crates.
So as FormaL says, quite a few things would have to happen for this to be the case. First of all, the situation in Halo would have to be, getting to a point where it doesn't even make sense for like these organizations to stay in Halo, maybe the team isn't going so well. And also there would need to be a few things happen on the COD side for this to actually make sense. Let's be honest, he retired from COD. He lost the passion for playing online COD all year, and I totally understand that. And also just the games were somewhat regressing, played through MW19. Cold War was better, but, it wasn't exactly a spectacular game compared to what we've had for, at least compared to what they'd been 5-6 years before FormaL eventually decided to call it a day. I know that FormaL has also said before, if jetpacks were to come back, that would be potentially a big draw for some of these guys to make the return, but we don't really think that's going to be happening. The game has to be good, first of all, because let's say Halo does find itself in a tricky spot. Would FormaL come back or would he just retire? Only he would, I think, consider coming back if the game was actually good. But we do find ourselves in a position where there actually might be some good games coming up. Now, of course, Treg are a bit of a different developer now to what they were before. Vonderhaar's retired and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still Treyarch. And the belief is that in 2024, so this upcoming year, there's going to be a new Trek game, Black Ops Gulf War, something like that. And the year after is supposedly going to be a Black Ops 2 sequel, Black Ops 2.5 or whatever. They're not going to call it that, but that's kind of what people have been referring to it as because it's not quite a remastered Black Ops 2. But I think we can think about that game as what MW3 is to last year's MW2 is effectively what CoD 2025 should be to Black Ops 2 from 2012. That's what they're kind of getting across at the moment. So that could well be 2 good years of competitive play in a row. This is one of the reasons why the likes of Clayster has said in recent times that he isn't particularly keen to call it a day, right? And Clay says, well, you're going to have to really drag me out of here to get rid of me from the scene, because if there's a track game on the horizon, especially a couple of track games, that is going to make players consider staying around longer than they might otherwise decide to. So this is the question with FormaL, but also he's not I would imagine going to play for any team that isn't OpTic, right? This was clear when he moved to Halo as well, that he was an OpTic as a content creator. He, had a loan to like FaZe and played with a couple of other teams, but eventually, of course, his plan was to play for the OpTic Halo roster. Eventually, they made the move for Pistola, right? FormaL was in, and then kind of the rest since then is history since 2022. I'm sure FormaL would want to do the same thing. Like, I don't think he wants to leave OpTic to go and play for, some other organization again. He played for Luminosity right after he left the Dynasty. Then he was back on Chicago Huntsmen for the start of the CDL era. Luminosity is still kind of like related to the Seattle Surge. So I don't think FormaL wants to do that. If FormaL was to come back in, he would want to be on the OpTic CoD starting roster, which restricts the opportunity slightly. Like, he was there before with Dashy, right, in OpTic Chicago, but there was an argument that AR duo wasn't really perfect from a couple of different ways. Maybe they play too similarly in some respects, and I'm sure maybe they can work out ways to resolve that. But still, I don't really see FormaL and Dashy as an AR duo working especially well. So the only way that I can really see FormaL coming back to OpTic CoD is if Dashy, it doesn't work out with Dashy, and then Dashy's gone over the next couple of years. Maybe FormaL comes back in. I don't know, but it seems difficult to imagine that if Dashy is kind of, we talked about the other day, Dashy's taken over the mantle of FormaL in some respects as OpTic's dominant main AR. For FormaL to come back again would be a remarkable set of circumstances. So it seems doubtful. I don't expect it to happen, but the fact that FormaL is open to the possibility is rather interesting. He says the grind is very different as well, like the way people play CoD compared to the way people play Halo. But we've seen it before when Halo dies down somewhat, and if the opportunity is there in CoD and if the game is good, FormaL still thinks he's got the talent to do so. But the options, the opportunities there, if Scump said to Hex, hey, I want to come back, I'm sure that they would find room. And also, SMG players are somewhat harder to find. Even though if Scump was to say that, they'd probably kick Kenny, wouldn't they? Let's be honest, and put Scump in. Even if they would decide to do that, because the team looks very promising at the moment. If FormaL though says to come back, it's maybe slightly more challenging to do. And maybe like the past should be the past, but I guess we'll see about that. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Just thought I'd mention this, I thought was funny here for Method. So if you guys watch the entirety of that Game Chat episode, you'll know that Pred, so Dashy, I think it was he talking in Boston or some other event last year? They went to some Gordon Ramsay place apparently, and Dashy had the beef Wellington, and he didn't like it at all for some reason. I can't believe it, but whatever. But I really didn't like the beef Wellington. So Pred then said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I loved it so much that I learned how to make it myself. So Methods is now calling Pred out basically and saying there's no way this Pred compulsive liar guy thinks he can make the beef Wellington from scratch, including the homemade pastry. Pred reckons that it's one of his many talents, and Hex says, all right, it's time to do the chow, 1v1 beef Wellington chow, because we know that Methods, Chef Tony and all this, does that kind of show. So, yeah, Hex says I challenge both of these guys to a beef Wellington chow in front of the cameras, of course. Special guest Gordon Ramsay to do the taste test. So we'll see if that one works out, but very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.